Hello, everyone. So, my name is Erica, and I am sharing a book that I have written with you. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with abortion. So, I had an abortion when I was in middle school, and it was from one of the abusers um, that I had dealings with from age, I would say, 6 to 12 years old, um, before I realized that I was actually somewhat being abused. I didn't quite understand it, that I was being abused. I felt like since I was abused so young, I felt like it was actually a relationship. So there was delusion there that, that I was actually in some type of a control, and this was actually like almost like a boyfriend. But either way, I did get pregnant by him, and obviously, it wouldn't have been good if I had the baby since he was a member of my family. He was not a blood relative, but he was the boyfriend of someone in my family. So my experience was this. I went to Planned Parenthood. He took me there, dropped me off, and I had the first appointment. They confirmed that I was pregnant, and then I left. Then, after that, um, there was another appointment for the day of the event. So in my young mind, what I was unsure of was what exactly was Planned Parenthood. I didn't know. I would come to find out that they were not going to help me plan anything. Definitely not my parenthood and this child that was in my belly, which was very, very confusing for me because on multiple levels. One is they actually at one point had me in a little room, and I'm going to date myself now. So I was watching a VHS tape, and it was talking about planning your parenthood. And so at that point, I was still sitting there and I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. I just felt as though, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I didn't know anyone who had an abortion. I didn't know much about abortion. Um, I just didn't know. And then it was equally confusing that they were showing me videos of families. So, in addition to that, what happened was they had told me on the first appointment that they would call me back. And I was in middle school, so I'm thinking I'm just right around 13 years old. And they said, when we call your house, we're going to make pretend like we're your girlfriend. So if your mom answers and she gives you the phone and says, Erica, it's your girlfriend, just answer it. And if you hear us on the other line, act normal because we're going to tell you the day and time to come in. And so it really boggled my mind that I was in this professional building with all of these adults that were working, and they were telling me that they were going to help me lie to my mother. That was super confusing. And it's still now disturbing to this day. So that's what happened. On the day they called, I was in the kitchen with my mother. She answered the phone, turned to me, and we just so happened to be in the kitchen together. And she said, Erica, it's for you. I answered the phone. And they said, Erica, this is so and so from Planned Parenthood. Your appointment is for this day and time. My mom was standing right next to me. And I just remember feeling like this is wild. Like these people just lied to my mom for me, which I lied to her plenty around that period of my life. But to have a group of adults lie to her for me and with me, that was wild. So at the second appointment, I'm sitting in the room and I am looking at this film about families and just not having a clue what's going to happen. They come in. Are you done watching the video? Yeah, I'm done. Okay. Well, go in this room and put your robe on. And then you're going to come over to this room. And I'm following instructions. I'm a kid. And they're telling me this is kind of set up like a doctor's office towards the back now. So they're telling me that what to do. So I'm doing it, you know. That's what I'm supposed to do. Follow what the adults say. So that's what I did. So I go into this little tiny room after I have my gown on. It has a bed with barely any room on neither four sides. And then it has this little stool there, almost like I'm going to the gynecologist's office, which at that point, I'm not sure whether I even went to the gyno yet. So the doctor comes in and he sits down on the little stool, barely says anything. Then a nurse comes in and they gave me something to calm me. And so she's standing by my head for comfort and, probably touching my shoulder or something like that. I just remember her being right here. And I look up when I'm laying down and I see a Bart Simpson poster, and I just remember saying to myself, like, wow, there must be a lot of kids who come in here. They have Bart Simpson up there. And I just remember that, and that memory just stuck with me since then. And here we are, you know, um, over 30 years later. So basically, I woke up, my eyes opened up next, and what I saw was probably 4 or 5 girls in chairs with sheets over them, kind of either sleeping or their head hung kind of like mine felt, and just kind of like zombie-ish. And with me myself, drool was coming out, and I just remember like barely being able to move around. But I just saw all these girls here, and they were like all young, like me. And they were, there was no parents around us. There was nobody there to take care of us or comfort us or anything. It was just us in these gurneys. And then I believe I fell back asleep because that was the room that we did that. That was the recovery room. So it was a big open room and they just wheeled us all in there, and that was our recovery. But either way, it's just um, a horrible time. So before I remember the Bart Simpson folder poster, when I was in that room, I just remember like a noise that came on, like a vacuum. And my young self did not really know what was going on completely. But as I grew older was when it started to really come to me in my early 20s. And it started to really affect me in a very bad way. And it just, a lot of remorse had come, and just thinking, like, what stage was my baby in? Like, how big was my baby? Like, what, you know, what level of growth was my baby that was inside of me? And, nobody shared anything about that with me. Just like so silent. And it was just awful. Um, so the next thing I remember really is just um, feeling very, very sick and in pain. And then he didn't come in with me either time. He would just come to the door, and then I guess they called him when I was ready. He'd come to the door, and then I walked out and got in his car.